Hello and welcome back to another episode of LMS Cast. I'm joined by a special guest and friend. He's back on the show. It's Zack Katz from Gravity Kit. We're going to be diving into Gravity Kit's newest add-on, which is called Gravity Board. It's really awesome in terms of project management, creating a Kanban Trello style board in your site. There's lots of ways to use that as an agency or as a course creator. But first, welcome back on the show, Zach.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's fun to get into this. I mention this, I think, every time we talk on this episode, but somebody once told me that like all the internet is and websites are is a bunch of forms. And once I like really understood that deeply, I'm like, oh my God, this is wild. And then Gravity Kit has this flagship product, Gravity View, which allows you to display form data on your website site in interesting ways. We use it in many ways at Lifter LMS. But let's drill in on Gravity Board. What is it and why did you create it?
Yeah, so Gravity Board is a Kanban style board plugin that replaces Trello essentially. It can replace Trello. If people have also used GitHub projects, it's similar to that, where GitHub projects has a way of seeing it in a vertical columns mode where you can assign tasks by dragging them across columns and update the statuses by dragging each individual task through a ready for building all the way through completed, and each of the stages of that project are represented by a column on the board. So Gravity Board, we built it because people were using Gravity View to do a lot of project management, where every time something needed to happen, they would submit a form that says, this is another task that needs to be done. And it would be shown in a Gravity View table, for example, or it would be shown in a Gravity View custom layout that they built to try to mimic the behavior of Trello or of similar, functionality. And we realized that we could be doing this ourselves in a much better way than Gravity View is able to do by having it be purpose-built. And so we purpose-built it to be really good at project management, but also at being able to visually see quickly all the different stages of your data, no matter what kind of projects you're trying to optimize.
Yeah. And a Kanban board is so powerful. I mean, I remember discovering this as an agency owner. I think when you just start out, we all try to manage projects over email, and then the complexity gets a little out of hand.
Right.
And then let's see, I've used Trello, I've used Basecamp, Asana, GitHub, and others. Trying to think of that other one. But
Monday.
yeah, Monday.com. But then one of the cool things about WordPress and all the innovation and entrepreneurs here is sort of like Fluent CRM. Like, okay, we can have a CRM just on the WordPress website instead of this separate SaaS tool. And you
Right.
were like, hey, instead of paying for Trello or whatever else, why not do it on your site?
Yeah, and it's interesting. One of the most fervent customers of the users of the add-on is a government employee who said that their government contracts prevent them from using external services like Trello to manage their data. But they can use Gravity Board because all of that information is on their own website. It's not being sent externally. So that was a really good representation of the power of WordPress and the power of owning and hosting your own content.
Yeah, and we get that a lot in the LMS space as well, particularly with internal company training portals. They kind of want to have their own website. We have an add-on called Private Site that locks it down from the public internet. But instead of having to in parallel run some project management tool, like a lot of internal training LMS sites are for, onboarding new employees.
Right.
So part of onboarding new employees is like filling out a form that needs to go to HR or whatever. And now you can do that. You can get the data through the Gravity form, even have it viewable on the site with Gravity View, and then also set up the HR team member to do whatever they need to do with that data
Right.
and manage like a big company because you can only keep track of so much of that stuff by email, right?
It's true, and intranets are an excellent, and onboarding are excellent use cases where, in combination with other add-ons currently, but we're looking into adding this built into Gravity Board. You can update values using logical rules that you create, so that, let's say you're onboarding somebody and they submit a form, that can automatically move the did they submit this form from no to yes columns, for example. uh, or like maybe they completed a bunch of steps, and that allows them to to move into uh, a new phase of their onboarding. Well, we're working on automation and integration with automations tools that will allow that type of thing to happen.
That's awesome. And if you're new to Kanban boards, and we're going to do a demo in a little bit just to show how this works. So if you're listening in your earbuds or listening to the podcast audio only, this is also on the Lifter LMS YouTube channel. Just do a search for Zack, Katz, or Gravity Board, and you'll find this episode. But the way, like when I'm teaching a new team member how to use our our Kanban board, it's the simplest way to think about it is to do, doing, and done. These
Right.
are there's only 3 columns, right? So that's the process. There's a list, there's a bunch of stuff to do. There's a bunch of cards for each of those things. When you're working on it actively, move it to the doing column, and then when you're done, move it to the done column. But that's the power of process. Like that's a very simple process, like to-do list, in progress, done. But there's all kinds of more complex processes. Like I know when I've used Kanban boards, I mean, some of them have like 15 columns,
Right.
and and multiple team members working on different columns or collaborating on different cards or whatever.
Yeah, they were created. The concept was created, I believe, by Toyota, to track the progress of building a car on the factory floor, to see what has been done already and what hasn't been done. So they had a bunch of different stages of the development process. And I might be wrong about this. You can look up the history, but it's cool that it started in the manufacturing world. And now, if you are a website builder, there are a lot of steps that you need to keep track of when you're building a website. Like, okay, do we have the design? Yeah. Has it been coded? Is the code reviewed by code review people? Has it been accessibility checked? Has it been staged on the staging site and tested there? Has it been merged into live, and has it been tested again? Like all of these, everything that I just said represents a stage that you can move the each project through visually on your Kanban board. And Kanban, Kanban, I never know what to say. Chris and I
Yeah.
apparently say apple, like banana and banana, but that's fine. You can say however you want. Um, and so what we were doing while building Gravity Board was using Gravity Board to track the process of building Gravity Board. So we
That's
were
awesome.
dog fooding it and saying like, okay, here are some features that need to be built, and then I moved them into currently being built. And one of the cool things about Gravity Board is you can assign these different tasks to different people. So you can filter the tasks that are assigned to you that are due in the next week. You can set up all these filters and see only the most important tasks that are needing to be done right away, all visually in a really nice user interface. So task management is important, and Gravity Board I think is a great task manager.
Another thing that's great for agencies and course creators is the sales process, like the
Yep.
handoff from marketing to sales. So, and this is why it's so awesome. It's integrated with Gravity Forms because you can start at like the top of a marketing funnel.
Yep.
You could have somebody opt in to get a lead magnet, and WP Fusion or whatever pipes that data to whatever your CRM is, but it also creates a card. Perhaps on that opt-in form, you ask for other information like team size or budget or niche or something like that that you use as a scoring mechanism for who are the best leads. And then that can go into like a follow-up process, and based on how what they filled out, certain leads are priority over others. And then maybe there's like a attempt to schedule a one-on-one sales call, like if you're doing high-end coaching or selling an expensive website where we're talking thousands of dollars. A lot of those things require a human interaction on a call of some sort. And then you get the call scheduled stage, and then you move into like the closing process of like closed, and in sales there's this concept of win loss at the end. uh but like that would be perfect with Gravity Board to manage lead flow for agencies and course creators and coaches.
Absolutely. And when I got started doing web stuff, I would cold call the yellow pages, one person at a time, and I would check them off if I had done it. If you have cold leads, warm leads, hot leads, tracking their progress using a Kanban board is perfect. I don't like to look at a table all the time, and
Yeah,
I don't like to look at a CSV like a spreadsheet. That makes me
yeah,
sad. I don't like spreadsheets. Uh, but I like to look at things in a Kanban board. It just makes sense to me more. So you can re-visualize the same content in different layouts. In Forms admin on the entries table, you see in a table. On Gravity View, you can see it in a table. But you can also manage the same content. And when you update it in Gravity Board, it also updates in Gravity Forms and on Gravity View. So it's nicely integrated with the rest of the ecosystem.
that's awesome. And I think the other big unlock with a Kanban board is when it's more than just one person working on a project.
Yeah.
You have teams. So if we use our sales thing, you may have somebody that works in marketing, somebody who does the sales calls, maybe somebody else who does the closing call, the like final sales call, and then maybe a customer success manager or something to manage, or a coach to manage the project after it's sold. And those are like five different people. And maybe
Yeah.
there's teams of people within each of those divisions. How do you think about like how does Gravity Board work with like assignees or teams?
Yeah, so one of the ways that you could do that during in like this leads example is that somebody would assign somebody else when a lead comes in. Like they receive the lead. Okay, I know this person is the person who should be assigned, so they assign them. That person does the first call and confirms that they're a viable lead. Then they assign to somebody else, and that can happen with it inside the card itself. You can choose different assignees at that time. You can also, at each stage, leave a note. So let's say you call somebody and they weren't there. You add a note to the lead, and you say, I tried contacting them and it didn't work. I'm going to call back later. So then you update the due date, and it shows up in the Kanban board as due on a certain day. And as it approaches, it changes color to show you that it's ready to be acted upon. And so let's say you follow up and you contact them and they're ready to go. They need to be uh, moved to a different stage with the customer success manager. You update the assignee, you add a note so that everybody's on the same page regarding the lead and what you talked about. And all of this is inside your WordPress website using Gravity Forms on with your own data. And you can mention people and they get emails. You can have all sorts of notifications set up so that everybody's informed all the time with what the project status is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing with teams. Like as an entrepreneur, you can come in and like look at absolutely everything, but also when you're in execution mode, you can kind of look at like, well, which are my cards, and like simplify the
Right.
and stuff like that. Well, if you would spin up a demo, and if you're listening, just head on over to the Lifter LMS YouTube channel and do a search for Gravity Board, and you'll find this if you want to see this in action. But we're going to take a look at um, this awesome innovation.
All right. So, by the way, if you want to sign up for your own Gravity Board demo site, you can go to um, site.try.gravitykit.com and sign up for a demo there, or go to the Gravity Kit website and go to the Gravity Board page, and there will be a button that says "Try a live demo," and you can get the exact same content that I'm going to show you on this demonstration. I'm just using a stock demo right here. So what we're looking at is the Gravity Kit all board screen, where if you've created a Kanban board, that it shows up there. But let's take a step back and start with a Gravity Forms form. We have a form here called tasks, and the form has the task name, the priority, like medium, low, high, critical, the description of the task, due date, and the status. And the statuses that we have set up currently are backlog. I don't know why it's not showing up, but backlog, in progress, etc. So we have a bunch of entries that have come in from this form, with each task represented as an entry in Gravity Forms. So a task called update website copy, low priority, has a due date assigned to it, status backlog. Each one of these entries is going to become a card in a Kanban board. And what do I mean by that? I'm going to click into the existing board that we have, where we can configure the Gravity board to be connected to the Gravity Forms form that we were just looking at. So the lane field, and the lane is the column. I'll show you this on the front end so you know what I mean. Each one of these columns is a lane. So backlog, active, ready for review, complete, and future. Each one of those is a lane. And you have the option to choose what field from the form you want to be the columns. So here we've chosen status, but you can also choose, okay, let's say the priority is a lane, and you can move between, when you move a card between lanes, it changes the priority from high to low priority. So you can configure the fields that you want to be mapped to the cards. The due date is the due date of form field, for example. You can enable and disable different functionality, including entry notes and assignees, and really cool stuff. You can enable card checklists. And this is a nice thing where you can have subtasks, and I want to show you this. So I just enabled checklists, and I'm going to refresh the front end here and open up update website copy. Now, this is assigned to a user called John James. If I wanted to assign it to somebody else as well, I could add assignees by clicking their user profile images here and remove them as by clicking them as well. So this is an example of, okay, I want to assign this to Matthew Markson, and I want to set the priority to high. Okay, high priority, and then describe the task. So this task is critical to meet our launch goals for updating website copy. But what does update website copy mean? That's where checklists come in, and you can have multiple items that are associated with updating website copy. Change the header text to cool. And when you add a checkbox here, you can add multiple items, and you can see that the checklist is marked out. It shows 0 out of 2 are completed. And when you check off the checkbox, it updates the progress bar to say 1 out of 3 completed. And that is also visible on the front end, where you can see 1 out of 3 has been completed on the front end of the card. So you can get a good summary on from the Kanban board view or on the entry details modal. And you can filter then by saying, okay, I only want to see tasks that have incomplete checklists. And that allows you to quickly drill down on, these are tasks that still have items that are remaining for me to do. I also want to see ones that are overdue or due in the next day. And you can really quickly identify, oh, shoot, I need to do all of this stuff. Or let's say you update website copy is no longer backlog, but it's actively being worked on. You simply drag it from backlog to active, drop it, and then updates the card status in the back end on Gravity Forms. So that update website copy now is active in Gravity Forms itself, if you look in the back end here. And you can see in the columns of the Gravity Forms entries table, the status has been updated to backlog or to active. And when it's done, you move it to ready to review. And that's been updated in Gravity Forms as well. So it's a different way to visualize Gravity Forms data, but because of the functionality that we've added with checklists and things like attachments, where the cards can have items attached to them, it makes it so, okay, so you want to update website copy. Well, you might need some assets. So let's add an LMS.txt file to make sure that gets updated on your new website. And once you're done, you can say, hey, John James, this has been completed. And when you at somebody using the at mention functionality, they'll get an email if they for each mention that you give. So John James, this has been completed. They'll get an email if you decide you need to change this to have more information, because that's not very helpful. Ready for your review. And you can update the note as well. And then John James will be able to see, hey, it's assigned to John James as well. Save the card, and that's all set.
Wow, that's awesome. And while Zach was doing that awesome demo, I just looked up, and on January 9th in 2017, Atlassian, a tech company, acquired Trello for $425 million. And this kind of innovation here, like what I'm seeing is it does what Trello does, but now you can do it on your website. It's literally a multi-$100 million of value that's sitting inside of Gravity Kit All Access Pass, or in the you can get the individual add-on if you just want Gravity Board. But this is
Mhm.
really, really cool. And unlike Trello as an example, because it's WordPress based, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but you don't get charged more based on the number of users.
Right. Number of users unlimited, number of entries unlimited, number of forms unlimited. And you can have multiple boards that are set up to be filtered for different users. So you might want one board, let's say a roadmap, a public roadmap, and you have each feature in work in on a roadmap on your website, like planned on doing, in progress, and done. And you could have a public version of that that people are not able to update, and they're only able to see and browse, and search, but they're not able to change. But then you could have the same form that's powering a different board for internal users, where internal users are able to update the statuses and leave notes and actually communicate about the status of things. So, and we designed it all to be very secure, so that all the data is going through one endpoint that is able to be monitored closely in terms of the data that's going out. So we have lots of security guards to make sure that only the people who are supposed to see the data do see the data. And you
So
can manage these permissions using a very in-depth board permissions page for who can add checklists, who can view them, who can add attachments, who can view them, entry notes, assignees, lanes. You can lock it down or open it up as much as you want, including the ability for this to be the source of your feature request form. You can have feature request forms that are completely powered by Gravity Forms and Gravity Board, where people can add a new feature by just clicking add card, and they can add a new feature request. And that's easy to do, and you can filter to only include the ones that have been reviewed if you want to have a review status, so that the administrator can decide whether or not to show it on the public page.
wow, this is really cool. I think I'm gonna get off this call and go cancel my Trello subscription, because this is really awesome. And just to clarify what you were saying on front end versus back end,
Right.
like you said, you could have a public board, like a feature roadmap for a software company, say. Um, but so that's like on the front end, and so where do these boards live?
Sure.
Is it all front end and it's based on user permissions who sees it, or is it back end, or both, or what is it?
So you can view Gravity boards inside the back end of the WordPress dashboard, and that's what I'm doing here. You can see it works just as well in the back end as well as it does on the front end. So you don't need to embed this on the front end of your site at all if you don't want to. It can be fully internal, but we do offer blocks. And let's say you wanted to have a page called, feature requests. You can add a Gutenberg block that says Gravity Board, and then you choose the board you want to display, and you publish, and just like that, you have the board embedded in a page. One of the cool things about Gravity Board is we've added full keyboard integration. So if you wanted to know what keyboard shortcuts there are, you can press Shift question mark, and you can browse completely using your keyboard. So like, let's say you wanted to um, navigate around using up and down. You can't necessarily see what I'm doing, but I'm pressing the side to side keys. And it's selecting the other, selecting different cards. And if you hit enter, it opens the card. And you can tab through the forms, add items as you want, and then hit escape to close it. Slash opens the filters, and you can search for something like SEO, for example, to only show cards that are related to SEO. You can hit escape to close that. Hit F to go full screen. And full screen mode is the way I like to use it because I don't like to have my content be limited by the size of my windows.
I love this.
So
It's so powerful. You can use a Kanban board as an individual, just like setting your daily goals and stuff. You can use it, if you're building a site for a client, maybe the client's going to use it to manage a coaching process, onboarding process, learning objective. There's so many
Apple
different
Notes,
ways you can use these boards. And
yeah,
they can
Apple
make your
Notes
brain
has
not hurt as bad trying to keep track of everything, right?
it's true. Apple Notes recently added a Kanban board layout to their actually Apple Reminders. That is, you can say like, okay, I use reminders on my phone, Apple Reminders for stuff I need to do around the house, like refill the bird feeder, take the trash to the transfer station, like all sorts of things I need to do, mow the lawn, etc. And I like to go move the item from not done to done, and I like to see those visually sometimes in a Kanban board's layout. So uh, I've been using Gravity Board for Gravity Board development, and we are just getting started. We're going to be moving from user voice for feature requests. We're going to be using Gravity Board instead. And so the feature request board is not just a hypothetical. We're going to be doing this soon ourselves.
That's awesome. And if that's it for the demo, I might pull this off. And
Yeah.
we do have a question from a live podcast watcher, so I'll pull it up on the screen. I'll start with it and give you time, Zach, to wrap your head around it. But Jennifer says that she owns a micro school. Would I be able to utilize this tool to create learning objectives or specific skills by subject that each student needs to master throughout the year? My first reaction to this is if you particularly have some manual grading and feedback processes in your courses or coaching programs or schooling, where um, you need to keep track of students and they're submitting some things, and you're grading and making sure they're getting the concepts and obtaining the learning objectives, and it's a little chaotic the way you run it now. This might be a great way to just transfer your process of how you think about achieving a learning objective to stages, and like how that fits with your course or lesson flow, and you can manage that with um, Gravity Board, because there's quizzes, assignments, grading, progress tracking, but when you add something like a Kanban board on top, you're just making your learning platform and process even more effective, easier to manage. And, particularly if there's a group of people working on it, everybody can kind of collaborate much easier. But I'll pass it over to you, Zach. What thoughts do you have on this one?
Yeah, I'm trying to imagine how it would be set up using a Gravity board, and the lanes might be stages of learning. And so, like, let's say you visualize the progress of like learning arithmetic from if you learn plus and minus, then you finally get to like division and multiplication. You might want to drag the user, like the student, from plus, like this person's mastered subtraction. Let's move them over to working on division at this point. So maybe that's a way to see it. It's helpful to identify the like Chris was saying, like trying to figure out the stages of the process. So if I don't have the stages right that you're talking about, Jennifer, then please get in touch with me and support@gravitykit.com. and we're happy to help you figure out what a good fit would be. But surely, with Lifter LMS and with Gravity View or Gravity Board, something would be helpful for tracking that type of thing.
Yeah, and just as a Lifter LMS feature reminder, if you're in Jennifer's case, as an example, if you're wanting to get input from the student, there's a Gravity Forms integration in Lifter LMS that where you can require the student before they can complete the lesson that they have to submit whatever information you want to collect, which can then feed into the Gravity board and really use those things seamlessly together and make sure your people use them if you want them to be submitting data. Or it could just be a back office process that you use just to keep track of learners and getting those completion rates and competency rates up.
And Gravity View integrates with Lifter LMS so that each student on their student dashboard can have a tab that shows the forms that they've submitted. So
Which is really cool.
yeah, it's a great integration. So that might be another way that you could do that, Jennifer, is to help visualize the courses that they've completed on their own dashboard using the form data that they've submitted, not necessarily the courses that they've completed, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Since you mentioned that, and we do have past episodes on Gravity View, but could you just give us a quick rundown of like what Gravity View is, how it's different from what we're talking about here, which is also part of the Gravity Kit suite of products at gravitykit.com.
Yeah, so Gravity View is more of an app builder. Gravity Board is a specific app functionality to display in a Kanban board, and we're actually going to be doing different layouts as well. But Gravity View allows you to do more, creating a custom application for exactly the type of flow that you need using point and click. So let's say you have more complex needs where each student submits multiple forms and like has each student creates multiple entries using a form like homework assignments. But then you have multiple teachers maybe grading those assignments, and each of those requires a new form submission to say this assignment's an A, this assignment's a B. And then those need to be visualized and exportable and added to a calendar. Like all of this stuff that we just talked to somebody who was about to be charged $1.5 million a year for this application that they built using Gravity View's point and click solutions. If your school is paying, if you're paying for these systems that track performance and fill out forms online, fill out the forms on your own website. Use Gravity View to build custom applications to do whatever you want to do. And we do so many things, it's really hard to summarize, but like we know that you're being charged too much elsewhere. We know that it's pretty easy to set up with Gravity View and that users love using it. And it just integrates with your existing flows. So if you're running a camp like an in-person summer camp, we have people that track all the students, all the parents, all the activities, all the extracurriculars, all of that using forms and Gravity View, and they build a camp dashboard that saves them thousands of dollars a year. So anytime you look at your budget and you say, like, we're paying a lot for X, there's a good chance that Gravity Forms and Gravity View can replace that, and Gravity Board now as well.
That's awesome. You've made it, Zach, to the advanced segment of the interview. So we're going back to the idea that forms and app building, it's just kind of mind-blowing what forms and moving data around and displaying it can do. If you would just pull up for your own use, gravitykit.com/products,
Okay.
and either go through all of them or just give a quick summary of, you mentioned Gravity Calendar in your last answer there. We haven't mentioned Gravity Charts yet or Gravity Math. Like what are some of these other things included in the all access pass at Gravity Kit?
Yeah. So Gravity revisions. Let's say you edit these entries using Gravity Board and Gravity View, but you want a way to undo entries, undo these changes, like track changes. That's what Gravity revisions does. Gravity export. So many people, you fill out a form, and then what do you do with that data? I don't know. I have my client log into the website and go to the Gravity Forms export screen and export entries, and then I download it, choose the columns that they want, and then download the CSV, and then they have to download the CSV. That's how they do it. Gravity Export makes that so it's a single URL that the same client can access to download a pre-filtered set of entries in different formats, including CSV, PDF, Excel. And so you don't have to, if you're trying to walk your client through using a website and accessing their own data on Gravity Forms, Gravity Export makes that real easy. Gravity Math, you can say, like, let's say you have a tasks form that has a field for the number of hours that you estimate a task would take. And Gravity Math can be able to sum each of those entries into, okay, all of our tasks are going to take this number of hours. So it's the ability to do math with Gravity Forms data. And that same goes with when you sell products using Gravity Forms, it can calculate all sorts of good metrics for your product sales. Gravity Charts, you can chart that same data, Gravity Forms data. Gravity Calendar, we use Gravity Calendar as a team vacation calendar on GravityKit. So we have a form for vacation requests. They submit a vacation request. When it's approved, it shows up on the team calendar. Now that team calendar, it's an ICS feed, which means that you can connect it to your Apple Calendar. You can view it in Google Calendar. I love being able to see my team availability on a calendar on my computer, on my phone, wherever I am, and that's powered by Gravity Calendar. Gravity imports Gravity Forms entries and forms. Gravity Migrate is really cool. So let's say you have this incredible application that you've built for your needs, and you know that this is going to be helpful for somebody else who has very similar needs, but you don't want to have to download and export and reconfigure all this stuff. Well, with Gravity Migrate, you export your entire Gravity Forms configuration, and that includes Gravity Kit, that includes third-party add-ons, that includes all the stuff you need. So you go to your other website and then you import it into Gravity Migrate as well. And all of your pages that have forms embedded on them, all of the forms themselves, all the entries, everything, all the attachments, if you selected that, will be automatically uploaded and migrated from one site to another. And that makes migration super easy. And instead of migrating a database, which there are a lot of database migration tools, we wanted to really drill down on the needs of the Gravity Forms community. So that's why we created Gravity Migrate. And there are other tools out there that we have. But yeah, I check out Gravity Kit. And if you have any questions about this, if you're listening, I am available for consultation call. I will talk to you about your needs or what you want to accomplish. And if you're not sure how to do it, I will help you. And if it's not the right fit for Gravity Kit or Gravity Forms, I will tell you you should probably use something else. I don't want to sell you on a software that you don't need. So like any good software entrepreneur, that is our goal, is your success. And I know that that's the same approach that Lifter LMS has.
That's awesome. Yeah, Gravity Kit is awesome. And once you see the power of forms and doing stuff with data, it really blows your mind in terms of building what you want. And the learning management system is a web application.
Yeah.
And you can customize your learning management system web application even further with Gravity Forms and Gravity Kit. You mentioned demos. The Gravity board has a demo. Do all of your add-ons have demos, or how did the demos?
All of our add-ons have demos. If you go to site.try.gravitykit.com, that's where our demos live. The default demo is Gravity View, but if you go to the top under more Gravity Kit plugin demos, you can see each of them have demonstrations. And each of those is live, so you can click a button, have your own working version of that demo site. So you can go in there and see how it's set up and change it to your needs.
That's awesome, Zach. I was looking forward to this episode because whenever you drop a new add-on, I'm like, this is going to be really cool. And as a project management guy who's dealt with Kanban for a long time, it's really great to see this available in WordPress and so flexible for so many different ways. not to mention all the other great stuff that comes with Gravity Kit. What's the best way for you out there watching or listening to get started? They could take the demo. These add-ons are individually sold, or you can get them in bundles. Is that right?
That's right. Gravity Board is available as standalone, and All Access is actually also includes all of our add-ons, including future add-ons. So, uh, yeah, go to gravitykit.com. We're actually having a 40% off sale right now for the next 3 days. We're celebrating our 11th birthday of Gravity View and Gravity Kit. So 40% off ends July 31st. So check out our sale, and you can snag a license at a big discount.
That's awesome. Well, Zach, thank you for coming back on the show. Really appreciate it. I can't recommend Gravity Kit, Zach and his team enough. Go check that out. Any other ways people can connect with you?
I am on Mastodon at Zack Katz, and mastodon.social/Zack Katz. And I am on LinkedIn, so add me to your professional network.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, Zach. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Chris. I really had a good time. Thanks.